With one race left to go, things could not be tighter. Hamilton and Verstappen tied at the leaderboard at 368.5 with 368.5. With that, welcome aboard another edition of F1 Starting Grid. I'm Brock Young. There's Mike Allen joining us this week as we break down the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix and previewing the. You have something to say?
Where's our names?
Oh, I really don't want to do it, honestly. Do we have to? Do we have to? We'll see in a minute.
You may proceed, sir.
We'll see. We'll see in a minute. So what a race there, Mike.
Oh man, that was a fantastic race, wasn't it? That was a race fitting of how the season's going, and you can't ask for a better finale than this weekend. It's going to be. Hopefully, it lives up to its billing. Hopefully, both cars make it to the end, and nothing happens. Nothing happens in qualifying, and everybody's healthy, and then we have a good wire-to-wire race. Pretty much, whoever wins this race is going to win the championship. So that's pretty cool.
It's just amazing. I heard that this is the first time they had 3 standing starts since 1974.
Yeah, well, that's a challenging course. It reminds me of us. It reminds me of Monte Carlo, really, except faster because there's longer straightaway. Monte Carlo is really about half that size and a lot tighter, so you can't build up the speed that you can build up at this course. And they were going fast, and there's nowhere to go. There's just nowhere to go.
It is the longest street course, but also the second longest on the calendar, just behind Spa, and the second fastest behind Monza.
Mm-hmm.
So being on the streets very narrow like that, I'm surprised there are any more red flags. I'm happy everybody was able to get out safely, securely, that sort of thing. I heard someone in F2 got in a wreck as well.
Fittipaldi's kid. Or no, not Fittipaldi's kid and another guy tangled up and had to go to the hospital.
I pray that they're okay right now. So
yeah, both of them were okay. They just went to the hospital to get checked out.
Well,
right.
Max was saying after the race he really didn't like this course because it's so tight, going so fast like that. Which I understand his point. It was exciting for us to see, but it was also very nervous for me watching that. It's like, dear God, are they going to hit the corners? I mean, the wreck between Mazepin and George Russell. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's just no place to go.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking to Russell afterwards. It's like, well, what could I do? I mean, I can't stop on a dime. But luckily it was luckily that happened kind of a slow section, so they weren't going 300 miles an hour. And, the damage was bad enough to knock the cars out. But if you watch it afterwards, it wasn't – the drivers were contained inside their cars, and the the integrity of the driver space wasn't in danger. A lot of rubbing.
Rubbing's racing. I tell you, I think the worst wreck this year that I've seen, and I want you to get your comment on this too, is the one at Imola between George Russell and Valtteri Bottas in the rain.
That was a bad one.
Did you see any other type of wrecks out there that you kind of cringe at this season?
Not that this season. There hasn't really been, other than this last race. I think we were trying to catch up with all the red flags and yellow flags in one race. Because there'd be, of course, Mazepin would skid off and hit the wall. That's. But I think that the worst crash that if we could rank them, the worst one was when Hamilton took out Verstappen, and Verstappen hit the wall going over 100 miles an hour. And came to a dead stop.
That was pretty bad.
Had a concussion, and had to go to concussion protocol and stuff like that because he came off that track pretty quick. And I can't remember what course that was, but they don't really have gravel. It's all concrete right up to the fence. So he skidded across that concrete and it didn't slow him down at all. Is that
I think it was Silverstone.
Silverstone? Yeah, Silverstone. Yep. So that's the worst one I saw this year. Of course, last year Haas's car exploding, I think, was the worst one, but nothing like that this year, thank God.
Especially with two rookies inside that Haas vehicle. I'm just kind of surprised that nothing other than, this past race with and Mazepin gotten a few wrecks too, but I mean, not.
How many races has that kid finished, Mazepin? That might be something to look up. I don't think he finished, but maybe 50% of the races he started.
Possibly. I mean, it's still not as bad as Romain Grosjean from last season, which you're talking about.
I mean, that Grosjean, where it caught on fire and he got trapped in it. Yeah. That retired him from racing for sure.
Mm-hmm. At least F1 for a minute.
Yep.
We talk about this too. That it says here on F1.com, Horner admits that Red Bull needs a miracle to win the constructors' championship in Abu Dhabi. Which I see that point too, but and we're going to look at the standings here in a minute. But Valtteri's running well. You can actually make an argument he's actually running a little bit better than Sergio Perez right now.
Oh, he is, yeah. I mean, I think that's Mercedes' plan is to get the constructors no matter what, and they're doing the right things to get Bottas because Valtteri's not. He's driving a much better car, but he's kind of in the same situation as George Russell. He doesn't give a crap. I mean, he's going to race because he's a competitor, but in the end, he doesn't care. He's leaving. He's going to wherever he's going, Alpine or wherever he's going.
Well, I think also is like where you finish on the grid, not just basically constructors, but drivers, is the amount of payday you get. So he's probably striving to stay in that third spot right above Sergio Perez to get that little extra.
Yeah, and there could be some financials behind it, yeah, but it really they should just let Hamilton and Verstappen go out there and throw 20 laps together and see what happens and just leave everybody else out of the way. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. Verstappen and Hamilton will be the top two at the grid. I don't think either one of them is looking at any grid penalties or anything like that. And then I don't think it would be smart for a grid penalty to be assessed against either one for any reason at this point. You need to let them go qualify. They're going to be number one and number two. And then when those lights go out, everybody else just needs to lay off the throttle a little bit and let those two get out ahead, and then just you guys have your race and let those two battle it out, which is, I think, what's going to happen.
Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. Just imagine if both DNF on the last race.
Well, then it would go down to wins, and Verstappen has that edge.
I would certainly hope so if they add just one more race this season.
Well, that would be great, but I don't think they have the logistics behind that. Wouldn't be feasible, I don't think, at this point. But if both of them, if both of them wreck out and neither one of them finish, I think they went through it. I can't remember Button and his partner were talking about it, and I was kind of half listening. Either the pre-show or maybe the post-show, that question came up, and what they do is they go down a tier. So the first one would be who has the most wins or the most podiums, and then it would go, well, if that's even, well, then they go to how many laps did they lead through the course of the whole season? Who led the most laps? And well, if they're even at that, then they go down to who has the fastest laps. And so there's a system in place. I'm not sure the exact. I could be wrong on what it is and what level it is. And of course, listeners can go Google it and figure it out. But yeah, if both of them say wreck out, which could happen, the way those two knuckleheads were racing, they could go around a curb and they could just be like, yeah, you're done. because they're not gonna. It's gonna be a contentious race. I cannot wait. Let's put it that way. It's gonna be probably the best race of the year, and it will be the most watched F1 race because they're gonna have a build up. They've already had the build up on ESPN. You see it all over the internet. I mean, it's it. There's only like 4 or 5 times in the history of F1 where it came down to the final race. That whoever wins that race wins, and it doesn't happen often. Usually, the driving championships are decided well before the end of the season. You already know who it is. With like 3 races left, and now it's right down to the wire.
Absolutely, and that's what, as a fan, that's what we want.
Absolutely.
One thing that drew me off, especially towards the end of the season, past few seasons, is Lewis Hamilton had it by probably September, October. I remember one year, the United States Grand Prix, if he finished in a certain spot, he had the championship already.
Yeah, no one else could catch him. Yeah, he didn't have to race for the rest of the year, and he would have been the champion.
Right, and that's
how dominant he was. Yeah,
but this is what we wanted. We wanted a close contest, and we couldn't get it closer than being tied. So those two are going to go at it tooth and nail. You're probably going to see quite a bit of yellow flags out.
I see a lot of yellow flags, and there's going to leave a lot of car parts on the grid for sure. And Verstappen's got to know. Hamilton's got it. I think Verstappen, from what they were discussing, Verstappen would win if both of them wrecked out. Yeah, because I think he has more wins or something. Again, you'd have to go look at it and get the exact what's going on. But I think because they had discussed what happens, and Verstappen has the edge. So, he's going to race like a madman because he doesn't care.
Yeah,
as long as both cars get taken out. He's the champion.
Well, and I guarantee
that would suck for us because that's not exciting. But think about it. Hamilton's got to be more careful.
If both of them finish, the loser will probably pitch a fit, and their team may go, "It's like, well, this team did something wrong. We need to investigate this."
Oh yeah, they're gonna. Yeah, the politics is going to be crazy. It's like perfect example. This last race, they told Max to slow down and let Hamilton by. So Max when they were watching it, he did everything he was supposed to do. He pulled to the right. He wasn't all the way to the right, but you're on a road course with no room on the side. I mean, but he pulled over and he let up off on the throttle. And Hamilton, I don't think it. See, here's you let Hamilton down. Hamilton's team didn't tell him that Max was giving up the space. So he was still racing like he was trying to pass him. That's why he was tucked up behind him. And so that's a team failure. That's not Max's fault. Yep. They were going after Max, but he pulled off to the side and slowed down. And he didn't slam on the brakes. They looked at the brake light. He didn't use his brakes. He just let up off on the accelerator. So, that's a miscommunication between Hamilton and his team. That's not Max.
Yeah. Well, speak about close races. I don't know if you want to see this, Mike, or not, but
I don't know how the hell you can't have anybody on the podium and still be ahead. That's boggles my imagination right now. You got to take this. How do you get 20 points on a one-off? Have you been doing that all year?
I just been picking correctly. That's all. Here's the points. So ahead of time, Mike. Sorry, I'm not.
How the hell Chaz shoot to the front? That's bullshit.
He got the whole podium right.
That's bullshit. How the hell I lead the whole season? The whole season.
I don't know. I really don't.
Hold on.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Yeah, it's under review.
Well, tell Toto Wolff to shut up. So, You actually went first last go around, even though you weren't here. So I'll give Chaz right quick because his is same old, same old. Got Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas on the podium. And his wild card is both McLarens will finish in the top 7. I've been battling this as far as picks. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to go with Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and this is going to be hard for me because I don't know very much. But I'm going to go with Sergio Perez because I think he needs a win there. And I'll say Gasly will finish in the top 7 as my wild card. So, Mike, you have the floor since I went first. There's no doubt someone.
Sir Lewis Hamilton for his 8th World Championship.
Okay.
Second place is Valtteri Bottas. 3rd place, Perez.
So Max is not even on your podium.
And my one-off is Verstappen does not finish.
Wow. DNFs.
And there will be controversy because Hamilton will be involved.
You know what? I'm going to make an exception because I'm the steward.
Hold on. Yeah, I'll tell him. Yeah, you can't do that.
Wait, hold on. You won't like this. For your one-off there, for your wild card, you said Max is DNF. That's 20 points if you get that right.
Yeah.
I'm going to add 10 more points to that. I'm not going to take away any points. I'm going to add 10 points if Lewis Hamilton is involved. So that's up to 30 points for you.
The stewards think that is acceptable.
Of course it is. I'm the one that said it. So you got a chance to catch up with that. So there's no argument, no discussion. No excuses coming in next week. Mike, I am all that is man, Alan. And watch Chaz runs away with it. I don't know.
Oh my God, Chaz, you need to show up, man. What the hell?
And speaking about it, I alluded to this earlier, so here we go. Valtteri Bottas's podiums ever since September in not Imola but Monza. So he's at 4 right now, this podium. So if Valtteri Bottas finishes on the podium in Abu Dhabi, Chad gets his 100 points. If he doesn't, Chad loses 100 points. So that's why I didn't go with Valtteri Bottas for my pick. That's why I went for Sergio Perez.
Yeah, but
so
if I get him all right,
Chaz will still come out on top because he's leading right now. He'll get that extra 100 points.
Yeah, but he won't. But he won't get the full podium.
Still, I mean, he's leading.
Well, you know what? He didn't show up. So minus 1,000 because he doesn't want to come hang out with us.
So he's negative 429 right now. Just a negative 1,000.
Got it.
I have to add something on there too. I don't know what. We'll think of something. But I'm excited to see what the new improvements to the Abu Dhabi course will be because there's the new tail end of it. It's going to be even longer. There's no chicane there. And there's also a very nice loop towards the end of the race as well instead of like little box curve they have. Now it's a loop. That means going even faster. So we may see more runoffs. We may see more yellow flags. We may even see a red flag again because you never know. But I'm excited to see this race. I'm excited because it is finally coming down to the last race ever since 2016 and a non-Mercedes or 2 non-Mercedes since 2013. So We're excited. I'm excited. I'm so excited to see this. So it's happening this Sunday. In fact, our Twitter question of the week, I'll pose it to you guys right now. Who will come out on top? Will it be Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen or both with DNF? So I have 3 options there for you. But going into this, we missed this discussion last week, Mike, so I want to get your take on it. You're the Williams fan ever since the 1970s. Your thoughts and impact of what Frank Williams left on the sport.
You know, Frank Williams, he changed the sport. Prior to him, getting an F1 team, it was an elite sport. It was only rich people and people of wealth could buy into it. Drivers actually bought their way in. They bought their seats. They paid for their seats. There's no contracts like there was now, and that's how you'd get into F1. Is you go to Ferrari, Ford, Mercedes, Alfa Romeo. Back then they had Brabhams. They had all these manufacturers, and you'd go in and you'd pay for your seat. And so the very rich, this is a rich man's sport. And then along came Frank Williams. Well, he wasn't of any, he wasn't rich. He just loved racing, and he loved F1 racing. So he came in and bought a used car, fixed it up, and started racing it, and then started getting sponsors and everything else. And this is back when F1 was still very, you'd watch it on ABC's Wild World of Sports. They'd show like 3 races. They'd show, I think, Silverstein. They'd show Monte Carlo. They'd show maybe 1 or 2 other races. Watkins Glen. They'd always have the U.S. Grand Prix, but you didn't have the access to it that you have now. And he went out, and as a independent builder with no backing or support from a major manufacturer, he pieced together a team. And not only did he piece together a team, he was winning with that team. Williams has won many constructors championships from the late 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s. Had many drivers champions. Anton Senna was one. God dang it. I had the guy's name. Help me out. We were talking about this the other day. Nigel Mansell.
No, Nigel Mansell, yeah.
Nigel Mansell. All these great drivers that went through the Williams stables and the Williams cars. And for a long time, we were talking about Williams like we're talking about Mercedes and Red Bull right now. They weren't at the back of the pack. It pains me the last, 4, 5, 6 years watching Williams struggle, because it's such an iconic name and such an iconic team. And for those that you don't know, they actually have a documentary on, I think it's Amazon Prime, where you can buy it. It's called Williams, and it tells the Williams story. It's very well done. But he, in his prime, he used to go out before each race. He was also a race car driver. He also raced in F1. But he would go out before each race, and he would run the course. He would jog the course, and he was an avid runner. And so he would always run and work out. Well, that all ended when he got in a car wreck, and of course became a paraplegic. And he still, that didn't stop him. He went through therapy and got to the point where he could move around in a wheelchair. And he ran the Williams team out of his wheelchair for many years, churning out constructors championships and drivers championships. So he changed the sport, and he allowed independent teams to come in, get contracts with Mercedes, with Renault, with Ferrari, with Ford. The Ford Cogsworth engine was one of his, back when the V12 era. He went in and he partnered with these manufacturers to get engines for his cars, and he'd build these fantastic cars. One of the innovations that's attributed to Williams is back, I want to say it was in the late 90s or early 90s. They came up with when the computer went to the microchip, they set up a car where the computer, and now this is available Yes, there it is, right there. That's it. That's it. Uh, this computer is available now in luxury cars, and what happens is when you turn a corner, the car's weight shifts and the car dips. Well, in F1 racing, that's bad because it shifts the balance of the car and the wheels and everything. So the optimum performance, there's Nigel. The optimum performance is when the car is at equal height and equal stability, where all four tires remain exactly the same, even when it's going around a corner. And the Williams cars put that computer in to keep the car completely level, so the driver didn't have to do anything. There's Nigel. And so that innovation got Senna a world championship, and FIA came in and saw what they were doing and outlawed it. Because all the driver had to do is just push down the accelerator and go. He didn't have to worry about, coming into a corner or, setting up the corner. He'd just take the corner because the car would level itself out. And that was one of the innovations that the Williams team put together for Formula One. So it's a fantastic, fantastic story. And he was a great man in F1, and F1 was changed because he lived and because he was a part of it. And it's a great loss. I mean, it's on par with the loss of Niki Lauda. I think the next one that's going to hit us hard is Jackie Stewart. When Jackie Stewart passes away, and he's in his 90s now, that's also going to hit because he was such an advocate for safety, and so was Williams. Williams was an advocate for safety. And look, the hardest thing that happened to him was when Senna died. It was because of a mechanical difficulty on the car, and that really hit him hard for the rest of his life. He always carried that with him because Senna probably could have survived if that car hadn't failed. The car failed, and for those of you who don't know, the car failed, and the way that the steering wheel was set up, when it hit the wall, the steering wheel came back up into Senna's head and killed him. That's what killed him.
Well, on that note, too, we were talking about this off the air, where I watched the documentary a while back with Senna, and he, going into that race where he passed away, he was very uneasy. He didn't want to race that race, but the championship, I think at the time, was so close that he had to get out there.
Well, they were accusing, if the race hadn't have been run, if they didn't run the race, he would have been the world champion. So they were accusing him of not running the race because it was Alain Prost it was a battle between him and Alain Prost, which is another great battle. Which, if you guys ever want to go back and do some surfing on YouTube, they have YouTube has a series of those battles. Alain Prost and Senna, who's at Hamilton, and what was the other Mercedes driver?
Nico
Rosberg, Hamilton Rosberg, of course, Niki Lauda and James Hunt, Jackie Stewart, and can't remember the name. It just all those great rivalries going through the years, and but that was another great rivalry.
I remember what we were talking about him earlier this year when he passed out, but the famous announcer for F1 back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when Senna and Prost were on the same team in McLaren.
Yes.
And they wrecked out together. It wasn't much of a wreck, but they wrecked out together. And
Alain Prost won the world championship. See, that's the situation we have now. If Verstappen takes out Hamilton, he wins.
He does. He does. But I love that part whenever both of them hit and they drove off the gravel together, and the announcer said, "They wrecked together. This is fantastic." I just love that. Was fantastic. But back to your point about Frank Williams, I remember that him talking about this too in the 80s, or I'm sorry, late 90s, early 90s, early to mid 90s, when Senna was coming up on there too. They have so much innovation on the Williams car like never before. They have such an advantage like never before, because not only did the power steering came into play, many items you see on your modern cars now, thanks to F1 cars, was
Yep.
probably started by Frank Williams. ABS, power steering. I mean, the list is endless. What he did to that car,
All stuff that's been outlawed.
all stuff has been outlawed on F1 cars because they give an advantage.
Gives
But when
it-
you see that head bobbing in there, they have no powers. They have no shocks or struts in that car. It's just basically you're on the road and you're going. And that's where the power of being a driver, the best drivers in the world, come into play, where you have to take control of that car. But I just remember that so vividly of what he has, not just what us as fans appreciate him, but what any type of motorist on the road that have to give thanks to that man for. Because the innovations of what he did. I mean, it's just mind-boggling what he brought not only to the sport but to vehicles, automotive altogether. So
he will be missed.
he will be.
There'll never be another like him, and I hope his team carries on. I hope that I hope his team survives. Well, it should. It's got new owners now, but they've really got to. Man, they got to get that team back to prominence.
And I kept on saying this throughout the year. We'll probably talk on this in the beginning part of the year. They need to get out underneath the Mercedes umbrella. I understand that they're still kind of important, even though they have a new ownership, and that ownership brought quite a bit of money and quite a bit of expertise into that team. They still got a little ways to go. I feel that there's a couple people that are in there that were with Volkswagen previously, Volkswagen Racing Team. You might even see an Audi or Porsche coming in soon if everything works out on that front.
Well, I'm not going to be happy till we see Ford Blue in there again.
To match the Williams colors.
Yep, Ford. I want to see Ford back in the mix.
Well, the last time Williams was in the top 5, I want to say it was in 2017. They were in the top 5 with 83 points. Of course, Mercedes had 668 points. But the last time they were kind of competitive, I think it was when Valtteri Bottas was with them.
Yeah, early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s.
Yeah, but at least in the early to mid 2010s, they were at least in the mid pack. They weren't at the very tail end like they are now.
Yeah, their prime years were the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
Ugly ass Hewlett Packard car. God, I hated that car, man.
Yeah.
That was the worst car. Oh my God, ugly. It was so bad as they were racing in the same race as the Benetton car. It looked like somebody threw up a paint can on them. Remember those Benetton cars with all the 80s, like designs and stuff on them?
Well, I'm looking at 2003. They were 14 points behind Ferrari for the Constructors' Championship. So they were second that year, but they were with BMW.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they get the engineers back. I don't think they had good engineers. And I think with the new rules with F1, where it's going to be a little more even, that if they get a good engineer team in there, and I don't know who their drivers are next year off the top of my head, but and just go be competitive.
Yeah.
You got to have a better car. George Russell will win a drivers' championship. He will be a world champion. Probably not until Lewis Hamilton retires. Lewis Hamilton is the Tom Brady of F1 right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's just kind of waiting for him to go away. It's like, you know what? He's so damn good. we're just gonna do our best, but yeah.
I think Latifi is still staying with the team.
Yeah. Get him a better car. You know, give him a car that they can race. You know, you're putting them out there with an inferior car. And yeah, they got a podium this year, which is good, but they got a podium after a bunch of cars wrecked. And that's what I said. I mean, they're 10, 15 car wrecks away from getting a podium. They shouldn't be that way. They should be up near the front.
It's Nicholas Latifi and Alex Albon.
Well, that's not bad. Albon's not bad.
No.
Just get him a good car.
That might help Williams at least move up in the standings. Maybe get it back in the top 5 here.
Yeah, just get him a good car.
So on that note, remind everybody of our Twitter question of the week. How will it all end up? Will it be Max winning, Lewis winning, or both DNF, basically? So get on Twitter at Form of Racing. You also visit the same handle for Facebook at Form of Racing. Plus, if you have any topics for us, email us, theformofracing@gmail.com. And check out our other videos here. Like, share, and subscribe while you're on YouTube. We need to grow this channel as much as possible. And we'll see you for our season finale next week to see who comes out on top. Not just for Formula One, but for us.
It's already in review.
The race hasn't even started yet. It's already a review. That's about right. We'll see. We'll see. Well, thanks for joining us anyway. We'll see you next week.
Yes, they will see. They will see.
Tell them to shut up.